Hi everyone, I am Nu-Trix and welcome to another video about my music production on my new EP that I'm working on right now. It is COVID-19 reality today, and I'm based in Montreal, Canada, and in Quebec everything is in lockdown. For most stores going to be closed for at least 3 weeks, and the rest we'll see what happens in the next week. So it's a very special moment, I will say, and I know that a lot of places in the world you live the same thing. So be safe, people. Be safe. Wash your hands, and stay home as much as you can. Don't move out. Don't go to the park. At least that's what we do here. Don't go to the park. Don't go to your friends. My parents are over 80 and my in-laws are over 70. We do everything to keep them alive. We don't want them to be sick, and do the same at your place. So it's a very special moment we're living right now, and let's try to make the best out of it, I guess. So stay home, stay safe, and well, make music, you know. So today I'm going to talk about the steps I go through for this new EP. I talked about the concept in the last video, not the last video, but this video over there, where I talked about the fact that most of these songs have been created using Gadget on the iPad, and that now I want to mix them in the computer. Actually, no, I want to mix them into the iPad, but I'm going through the computer before that. There's a step, and I'm probably going to make multiple versions of these songs. So I talked about it, so go back to the other video if you want to. But what I'm going to do now is that I did take the Gadget songs, put them into Ableton Live, play that, recreated the sounds that I wanted into the hardware here. The question I got was, why don't you just play back from Auria Pro and record into the iPad directly? The problem I have is I really want to do a dry recording of everything and do a lot of editing in the mixing stage. I'm still going to do production in the mixing stage. It's not just mixing. I'm still going to do a lot of decision about cutting stuff in and out, and playing with, you know, space and depth and all that, and frequency and all that stuff. So my question is that I want to be able to record all these tracks separately. And the MX1 from Roland, the mixer I have here, has 16 inputs that appears as 16 separate inputs into the computer. So it's a really great way to record. That's why with the Ableton Live, I did have the session. Actually, let me show you this. I have all these tracks that I recorded, and they're great. I mean, it works really nice. I did work on making the sound the way I wanted, and recorded from the beginning to the end. And I recorded always from the beginning because I want all my tracks, my audio file, to be synced. Wherever I put them after that, they all start from the same sample at the beginning. So they're really all in sync. Now, I had a problem with this, and I'll show you a little bit later, but I had a problem that I didn't like the sound. There is a noise coming up from the A01 from Roland. I'll make you listen to it, or might not be so obvious on YouTube with the encoding and all that stuff. But to the point that I did all the export of my file into Auria Pro, normalized that, start to listen, and I heard the noise. It was a problem for me. I didn't want to start cleaning up the tracks and all that stuff. I wanted clean tracks from the beginning. So I went back to recording, and I looked at my mixer. I went back to the volume of each track to figure out the best volume to get maximum volume of the synth without noise at the back. And I finally decided not to use the A01 anymore. I'll show you why. The A01 has no dedicated line out or audio out. There's a phone out. That's it. And there's a volume for the phone. So this thing is noisy like hell. This is headphone. This is not a line out. So it is a problem. And I remember people asking me, did I find this to be a problem? And honestly, when you're just playing live in the kit here, it's not a problem. When you record and you start doing detail editing, you go, it's noisy. It's just noisy. So I'm gonna still use the A01 for fun, but it will probably not be in any recording anymore, because I don't want that noise. You know, it's just a noisy synth, sadly, because it's a cool little piece of gear. I don't understand why there's no audio out, and the USB does not send audio, and that's kind of bad because my mixer could accept it if it was sending audio like the other boutique synth. So maybe there's a firmware update. I'm gonna look into that. Maybe if there's a firmware update and it goes into the output, and I might be better next time, but this time no. So I went back and re-recorded my tracks with the Behringer Neutron instead. Now basically, I record all the tracks at once, and that's why you see all these tracks here. One thing to note is that when you look at the name, like Neutron 2, it's actually the second take. Rocket 7, it's the 7th take. So take these names down, because you will have to find in your folder, in your hard drive, these tracks after, to be able to copy them and bring them into your DAW for the mixing stage. So the only thing I had to re-record was snare, clap, and hats, and the kick drum separately, because the way I use my TR-8S now, it's in stereo mode, and I don't want to disconnect everything and reconnect everything every time I'm going to record. So I did 4 pass to record just the kick, and then mute everything, just keep the snare, just the snare, just mute everything and just keep the clap, just the clap, and mute everything and just the hi-hats and just the hi-hats. So that's why I had to do 4 passes to record my 4 drums separately, because my goal here is to have these raw tracks, clean, dry, no reverb, no delay. There's only some of the effects built in from the JP8000 I kept because it was part of the sound, but everything else, it's clean, dry, raw, and everything you'll hear when I'm gonna do the mix, it's gonna come from the mixing function of either Auria Pro or audio unit plugins into the iPad. So how do I get these tracks now into the iPad? There's 2 ways. The first one is using a USB disk. You take your USB disk and you use this little thingy here. I talked about this in a video when I used with the Rubik's 22 sound card. It's probably here. And this actually, when you want to use anything that is USB powered with an iPad, either you connect that other device into the power supply, or in the case of the flash drive, there's no power supply. You need a dongle like this that has a power in. So yes, it goes into the iPad, but on the other end, you connect power right into this. You put your USB disk and you put it in, and then it appears into the file system, into your iPad. Then you can just move stuff around. So that's one way. I'll show you what it looks like. If you go into the iPad, you have the file at the bottom, and file would show you file, and on the side, on top of my iPad and iCloud Drive and all these things, you would have also the name of your USB disk. I'm not going to do it here. If I do that, you will not see my screen anymore. So so we do it this way, and then you just select the file you want and say move or copy, and then you go into my iPad and you go into, in my case, Auria Pro, create a new folder that you call the name of your song, and you drop your file there. And then Auria Pro will be able to see it, because that's the folder of Auria Pro itself, or the whatever software you want. If you put it in Cubase, it's going to be seen by Cubase because it's the folder of that software. Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's one way to do it. It's using a USB disk. Now, the other way that is also really awesome, if you have macOS Catalina, it's like macOS 10.15, if I'm not mistaken. Instead of doing this way, I'll show you. You go in your Finder, and in the Finder, you have on the side, you have the iPad. It appears like, now you're in the Finder, but it appears like if you're using the iPad with iTunes, and then you've got File, and in File you've got all these internal memory space if you want, and you go Auria Pro, you click on the arrow and it opens up the internal memory. So you're now looking at what's in the memory of the iPad. These are the files of different projects, and if I want to drop my folder in there, I just take my folder, drop it in there, and it will create a new folder. Now, the way I prepare that, I did select first all of my tracks. So I went into, where is that? The folder where you have your track and the backup and the sample. In the sample folder, you open it up, there's going to be one folder called recorded. All of the other tracks are just like clips information. I don't want the clips, I want the full long length recorded file. You go in recorded, and in recorded, you try to look for the file we talked about. Like if it was BS5 or whatever take it was. At the same time, you've got the date and you've got the length. So yeah, I know that it's clap number 3 and it's at number 6. So it's the 6th version of the take. Take number 6. You have snare number take number 4, microfreak take number 1, neutron take number 2, whatever. You wrote them down and you create a new folder. What I like to do it is I call it solid point is the name of the song, raw tracks, meaning these are just the raw files cleaned, and I just copy them. I don't want to take them out of the original session. I just want to create copies in the new folder. So the solid point raw tracks are the one I'm going to use. And now this one, I'm going to drop it into the iPad folder. And just look at this thing. If I drop it into the iPad, it becomes a plus. I'm not going to do it because I already have the raw tracks there. But when we drop it, there's no visual information, at least I hadn't seen any, that tells us that it's being copied. So for a little moment, I was like, it's just not working. It's just not working. And I was looking for and then poof, it appears like, oh, it's been finished. It's been copied. So if you drag it over the folder where you want to drop it, and there's a plus sign and you let it go, wait a moment, because it will be copying, but you will not have any type of visual information until it's actually copied. So it's being copied, just wait, and it's going to be done, okay? When that is done, we can close this because we don't need this anymore. We're actually we're going to go back inside, let's go back here. I'm going to go back into, I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to open my Auria Pro because that's the software I want to use. In Auria Pro, I'm going to make you listen to the first version, the load project, and it's solid point here, the one I did yesterday, 2 days ago. Now, the one thing I didn't like is this thing here. I'm going to make you listen to this. You might not hear it. For me, it's a real annoying sound. This section here, I'm gonna split it. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna split it again, and this. I'm gonna loop this. You hear it? So that is the noise coming off of the A01. So I can't have that in the mix. It doesn't work unless I really want to use this as a sound, but that's not the case right now. This is not what I would need at all. So what I did is I started a new track. That's what I did. I re-recorded everything, and let's say I'm going to do a new project. I'll show you how I import. It's 48, so I need to select the right sample rate. And I'm going to have 8 new tracks, and it's going to be called solid point, take 3, and let's go and save. So I've got a new 8. I'm actually going to import my track now. I'm going to go import file. I'm going to look for the solid point raw tracks here. And I'm going to import the kick. Now there's a +1, which means because I clicked this one first, it's going to be a track number 1. Snare, clap, and a hat. So I'm typing them as in the order I want them. I'm going to have the neutron lead, then the bass station, then the rocket, then I want the micro freak, the JP8000. Oh, there's a plus. And it's going to create another track just for that. The other neutron, there's a plus, and the SH01A, there's another plus. So the order, if you have already your tracks created, the order is going to be by the order you clicked in. And if there's no order, and you just you add them, they're going to create new tracks, and the order is going to be decided by the software itself. I'm going to create that. It's going to import the tracks. Right now, it is importing the tracks, but not converting them, because this was recorded at 48, and it's a session that is also at 48. So it's a one-on-one. If it would be different formats, it would have to import, then convert. It would be like two things. And because all of them starts at 0, they're all going to import at 0, and they're all going to be in sync right away. So right sample rate, and they all start recording at 0 at the first sample. So it's going to be all good. Okay, so we have it here. Let's look here. You've got these tracks. Now, the first thing I do, I want to normalize them. I want them to be loud, but not too loud. So I'm going to go multi-select. So it's the first in the corner, the first little one, and then you click. Everything you click, it's going to be adding up. And click all of them. And I'm going to go into process. I'm going to press normalize. And I'm going to select, I don't know, maybe -10. And I'm going to go enter and OK. So he's going to normalize all of the tracks. For those who don't know what normalize is basically the software looks for the highest volume and bring it to the volume I just selected. So if my loudest volume was -5, it will drop it to -10. If it was -28, it will bring it up to -10, but everything with the same volume. So it's just like bringing up the volume of everything. And it's one way to also hear if you have, background noises. So now let's start this. My next step now will be to play around and do some of the edits in this window here. I'll see what I can do. And also going into this window and then edit with the effects and adding up all of these cool effects. And I'm going to try these. I've got a ton of new audio unit, Altazac, and there's some really fun stuff I haven't tried yet. So that's going to be a cool thing for the next videos, which I'm going to look into using Auria Pro to finish my editing aspect and then do the mixes, basically. And I'm going to set it up so I can actually use a controller, because what Auria Pro can do also, it can actually receive messages from the UE format. And I could have, tracks, volume, arming, solo. So I'm going to dig into how to make this work correctly. So next video about mixing and music production will be more about using Auria Pro as a mixing tool and exploring the different plugins that I haven't yet had time to play with. So that's going to be the next thing. So that's it. That's for today. How I got from Ableton Live to Auria Pro. I'm really interested in doing a test for a live stream. So I'm trying to figure out how I would do a live stream where I can stream my iPad, my computer. So I'm gonna figure out a way to stream what I'm doing. And so if you're up to participate into a live stream either on YouTube, Facebook, or it could be something else, write in the comments if you're interested in that, and I'll try to figure out how to do it. And if you got suggestion on the format to use, I'm open. I'm going to be here for like another 4 weeks at home. So yeah, and outside of making videos that I usually do, doing a live stream to have an interaction and have people ask me, how do you do this? And I could actually demo something. I find it really interesting. So that's it. So if you're interested into that, I'll try to figure out a date and a moment. And this is really about a project that I'm doing for myself, but at the same time, if anybody can get some information out of it and be better at it, so good for you. That's it. So stay safe, make more music, use the time you have to experiment on something new, and or finish stuff that you never finished. You know what I'm talking about? There's some songs out there in your hard drive that just screams and say, "You left me alone," and you could finish them now. That's it. See you soon. Cheers.